Right, so check this out. I'm in Shanghai, China, one of the best cities on earth. And I'm just thinking, what if we could do this back home? What if Zimbabwe, if Africa could build cities like this? I know, it sounds like a crazy dream. But here's the thing, just 40 years ago, China was exactly where many African countries are today. And as a civil engineering student from Zimbabwe, currently studying in Tongji University, I get to see exactly how they did it. And more importantly, I get to see how we can apply it towards an African context. So yeah, this isn't just daydreaming. This is about real strategies, real numbers, and real roles that people like you and me can play. So yeah, let's dive in. Okay, so let's talk about what makes Chinese cities work. And I'm not talking about the shiny buildings. I'm talking about the systems. First up, centralized planning with local execution. China's government sets national goals, but cities compete with each other to innovate. It's like a championship league, but for urban development. Here's a stat that blew my mind. Shenzhen went from 30,000 people in 1979 to over 12.5 million today. That's not just growth, that's orchestrated transformation. Now, in urban planning, we study something called transit-oriented design, or TOD, which means we design homes, offices, and shops around transportation hubs. Shanghai's metro system, 508 kilometers of track, 20 lines, compared to Lagos, Africa's largest city with 24 million people, which is just one metro line, that's it. Here's the interesting thing about that. China didn't start with 20 lines. They started with one in 1993. The key is they had a 50-year plan. The density isn't the problem, it's the infrastructure. We have the people, we need the systems. Alright, here's where it gets real. I need you guys to lock in with me. This might get a bit uncomfortable. Let's talk about land reform. Now in China, the government owns all the land. Local governments lease it to the population and give them around 70 to 100 years. This gives them two huge advantages. They can plan efficiently and they can fund infrastructure through land sales. Now, I'm not going to start preaching the gospel of African countries copying exactly what China does. Our contexts are different and we have to respect property rights. But here's what we can learn. One, we need clear land registries. In many African countries, only 10 to 20% of the land is formally registered. You can't plan a city when you don't know who owns what. And two, we need mechanisms to capture land value. When government builds a road or metro station, nearby land values skyrocket. In China, the government captures that value. In most African cities, it just enriches private landowners. And I was just talking about this with my dad the other day, about how Rwanda has just registered 11 million land parcels since 2007. It's not perfect, but it's a start. And the major question, which I know you guys have asked since the start of the video, is where does the money come from? Because let's be honest, building cities is expensive. Here's how China did it. They created specialized banks like China Development Bank that fund infrastructure at low interest rates between 1998 and 2018. They invested over 28 trillion in infrastructure, that's trillion with a T. Now, Africans obviously don't have trillions of dollars just sitting around ready for us to throw into infrastructure. But here's what's interesting about public-private partnerships, or PPPs. Kenya's Nairobi Expressway, built through PPP with Chinese firms, completed in 18 months. Morocco's high-speed rail, PPP with French companies. Ethiopia's Addis Ababa light railway, another Chinese PPP. The pattern here isn't just China builds stuff for Africa. It's about learning the model, and the model is government provides land and planning, private sector provides capital and speed, and everyone benefits from the revenue. This was also done in Zimbabwe, in the Gafu-Todd era, where South African firms, through PPPs, built most of the roads and recouped their money through toll gates. Let me give you a better example. The Lekki Free Trade Zone in Lagos. I apologize to my Nigerians for butchering that. It's a 15 billion PPP project creating an entire new city district. They're projecting around 500,000 jobs. Could Zimbabwe do this? Could we create a Harare Free Trade Zone? Honestly, yes. But we need people who understand how to structure these deals, how to negotiate with investors, how to project public interest while attracting private capital. And guess what? That's what I'm studying. That's what we can all study. Alright, now here's my favorite part because, like I said, I'm studying civil engineering. And this is where engineering gets cool. Let's talk about how China built so fast. Remember when China built a hospital in 10 days during COVID? Well, the name of the game is prefabricated construction. Here's how it works. Instead of building everything on site, you manufacture walls, floors, even entire rooms in factories. Then you just assemble them on site like Lego. In traditional construction, labor costs in China about $3 to $5 per hour for skilled workers. In Zimbabwe, it's about $2 to $3 from the research that I've done. So we actually have a labor cost advantage, but our projects take 3 to 4 times longer. Why? Because we build everything the old way, brick by brick, on site, vulnerable to weather, material delays, everything. And this all accumulates to higher project costs. Now in my research for this video, I studied a company called Broad Group. They built a 57-story building in 19 days. Now prefab isn't perfect for everything. Don't get me wrong on that. But for mass housing, for schools, for clinics, it's a game changer. And here's the exciting part. Several African countries are starting to experiment with it. Kenya has a prefab housing company called Centewo. My Kenyan brothers, please forgive me. Centewo Group. South Africa is using it for low-cost housing. But it's not just about prefab. It's about systems. Chinese construction sites use standardized processes, digital planning with BIM, building information modeling, and strict project management. It's visited construction sites here, and the level of organization is incredible. Everyone knows exactly what they're doing when they're doing it and how it fits into the overall timeline. In a 2-year project, a year and a half is spent on the planning. Okay, that might be an exaggeration. Okay, it's time for some real talk. We can't just copy and paste the Chinese model. And we shouldn't. Our context is different. Our values are different. And honestly, some things China did, we can do better. Let me break it down and what we need to do. Number 1, start smaller, think modular. China could build entire cities from scratch because they had massive rural to urban migration. We have that too, but we also have existing informal settlements with millions of people. Think Kibera in Kenya, think Khayelitsha in Cape Town. We can't just bulldoze and start over. That's not ethical and it doesn't work. Instead, we can upgrade incrementally. Better roads first, then water pipes, then sewer reticulation, then electricity, then proper housing. Think of it like upgrading your phone piece by piece instead of buying a whole new one. Number 2, leapfrog with technology. Here's where Africa has an advantage. We don't have legacy infrastructure holding us back. China built its cities for cars. Now they're retrofitting for electric vehicles. We can skip straight to the future. Mobile money. Africa invented that. Econet, shout out. Why not mobile-based urban planning, digital land registries, drone surveying, solar microgrids instead of centralized power plants? Kenya is already doing this with Mkiba bonds. Hey, my Kenyan brothers, you guys are gonna hate me by the way I'm butchering these words. Using mobile phones to let citizens invest in infrastructure, that's innovation. Number 3, mix formal and informal. African cities have something Chinese cities don't. This incredible informal economy. Street vendors, informal transit, local craftspeople. That's not a bug, that's a feature, a uniquely African feature. We need to plan cities that integrate informal and formal systems, not erase one for the other. And because we're designing for the future, number 4, climate smart from day one. Chinese cities have massive pollution problems because they industrialize first, worried about environment later. We don't have to make that mistake. Solar is cheaper than coal now. Green buildings cost the same as regular buildings if you plan for it from the start. We can build African cities that are actually more livable than Chinese cities because we're building for 2050, not 1990. Number 5, the Pan-Africanist vision. China has 1.4 billion people in one country. Africa has 1.4 billion in 54 countries. That's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. The African Continental Free Trade Area is the world's largest free trade zone. Imagine high-speed rail connecting Lagos to Cape Town. Imagine standardized building codes across East Africa. Imagine pooling resources for training programs. We can do what China did, but as a continent. So here's the big question. What can we do? What can a 21-year-old civil engineering student contribute in building cities? I used to think I needed to wait until I was some big shot with a fancy office and a fancy title, but honestly, the revolution is being built by people exactly like us right now. Here's what I'm doing. I went to the source for education, and here's what you can do. 1. Learn the technical skills that are in short supply. BIM modeling, GIS mapping, project management software, sustainable design. These skills are needed right now. There are projects waiting for people who know this stuff. 2. Document and share. I'm literally making this video for that exact reason. Knowledge transfer is crucial. When I go back home, I'm bringing everything I've learned here. Start a blog, make videos, write articles, teach others. It actually helps you to better internalize the information. 3. Build your network strategically. I'm connecting with Chinese engineers, but you can also connect with engineers from other universities within Africa, like UCT, Stellenbosch, Kenyan, Nigerian universities. All it takes is shooting a DM, an email, find a way, because for the future of Africa needs us to find a way. Your network is your net worth, especially in development work. 4. Start small projects now. You don't need $1 million. You can redesign your campus bus system. You can propose a better drainage system for your neighborhood. You can 3D model more efficient housing design. These small projects build your portfolio and prove concepts. Look, I'm going to be frank. This is hard. Building cities takes decades. It takes political will, massive investment, and thousands of trained professionals. But you know what? China did it. Singapore did it. Rwanda is doing it. And when I walk through Shanghai, I don't just see what China built. I see what Africa can build. I see cities where my little cousins back home can have clean water, reliable electricity, good schools, and opportunities. That future is possible, but it needs us young, educated, ambitious people who are willing to learn, adapt, and build. There's a Chinese proverb that says, if you want to build an economy, build a road. Yeah, so that's it. That's how Africa can build cities like China. Not by copying everything, but picking and choosing what applies to the African context. By learning the principles, adapting them to our context, and leveraging our unique advantages. If you're a student like me, or if you're just curious about African development, drop a comment below and let me know what you think Africa's next Shanghai could be. And if you want more content like this, me basically geeking out about infrastructure and development, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm heading back to Zimbabwe hopefully next year. And trust me, I'm coming back with plans. Let's build the future. Divine Grace, Accelerated Growth. Engineer Malo signing out. Peace.